order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The school board will convene to close session tonight to consider the employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility under Wisconsin statutes 19.85 and 1 C for the superintendent evaluation, compensation for 21-22 administrative, certified and support staff, high school varsity girls assistant soccer coach, musical director, and school board self-evaluation development. Tracy or Chris, did you sign up to speak under guest comments? No. Then we'll welcome Representative Kitchen. If you want to bring your chair forward and join the conversation. Thanks for being here tonight.
You want me to just sit here? Or
Sure. Wherever you would like to.
It's a different format?
He knows a little bit of our constant.
If I could make a few introductory comments, and I'd like to thank Representative Kitchens for being here this evening. I know that your plate is very full right now too, and it's not business as usual, so we appreciate you taking the time to be here. And I'm wondering, just to get started, and I know some of our board members have questions for later, but if you might just give us a few of your thoughts regarding the education budget, which this is a budget year for us, so that is an important topic to us. And then also a few of your thoughts regarding the COVID-19 virus, and particularly the vaccine for school staff. So do you want to make a few introductory comments, and then later we'll take some questions.
You bet. And first off, I already congratulated Sue on being named as the School Board Association President. I think that's a really big deal for Sevastopol, so
Thank you.
You've been at this a long time. So as far as the budget goes, it's kind of early for me to give you a very good idea what's going on. I think when the pandemic first began, we were looking at at the time we thought we were going to have like a 10% reduction in revenues. So we were afraid we were going to have to come back in at the end of 2020 and do a budget repair bill where we would actually have to take money away from the schools that we had already given you in the last budget, which we obviously didn't want to do. I think once you have your budget set and stuff, if we have to give you reductions, it'd be better in the coming budget rather than doing it retroactively. So fortunately, and certainly part of it is because of the CARES Act and all the money that went into that, but the economy has stayed much more steady than we ever would have thought. So our revenues are actually far better than we had initially anticipated. Now, going into the next budget, I think it's going to be kind of early to say where we'll be exactly. My best guess is going to be that we will hold fairly steady this time. I would hope that you're not going to see reductions, and I know the sheet had some things that you guys were concerned about having reductions in. My best guess is that you won't see big reductions at all, but don't expect a lot of increase either. That's just, we'll know more as it goes, but again, the projections on the revenues have been far better than we anticipated. On the federal level, the second round of the ESSA money will be coming out to the school districts. Now, as I recall, it's something in the neighborhood of $680 million coming to Wisconsin. 90% of that goes to Title I, so it would depend on your poverty rate basically in your district. Now, the other 10% of that will be controlled by the Joint Finance Committee in the legislature, and what they're thinking they will probably do is, because we recognize, I think, that whether you have a lot of kids in poverty or not, there's significant expense caused by the pandemic. And so my best guess is they will make sure that everyone gets at least like $400 per student through the ESSA money, using that 10% to make up for that for the districts that don't reach that through the Title I. Now, Milwaukee, the way it looks, is going to get like $3,000 per pupil, and I think when that becomes public, people are going to kind of freak out about that because they really haven't even had their schools open. So there's going to be a lot of criticism of them getting that much money. But that potentially could be a significant infusion for you. As far as the pandemic, well, there are some things. I'll talk about the vaccination part first, I guess, but and that's fluid. It's changing day by day, and the governor and Department of Health Services has complete control over who gets the vaccine. We don't have any say at all in the legislature. With the latest recommendations, teachers will be in part of the 1B, which is supposed to start, I believe, Monday, right? But I know that there are a lot of people in that 1B group, so it's going to be tough to get to everybody right away. So, again, it's not telling you a whole lot that you probably didn't already know, but that's kind of where that stands. We're still working on the COVID relief package. We had been negotiating with the governor. He kind of quit negotiating. Then the Senate passed something. And it's been kind of a mess, really, that we can't really agree on. I will say, though, with our COVID package, it's not like the federal COVID package where it really impacts everybody's life. Ours deals with a lot of things like medical reimbursement and what's insured and what's not insured, things that are not huge things. So it's for most people, it's not going to be a life or death thing. Now, the school part of it, the initial assembly package had some things that, frankly, I didn't agree with. Most of those got taken out well, these are the education things. In negotiations with the governor, most of those got taken out, the more egregious ones. There still in the assembly package has a provision where if a school district chooses to remain closed, they have to vote like every 2 weeks to renew that to stay closed, and it has to be a 2/3 majority of the school board. Unfortunately, like a lot of things with education, that gets driven by the large school districts. Because I think, around here in all of our districts, you guys are doing your best to be open as much as you can and try to balance it and all that. But the larger districts, so many of them have chosen just to stay shut. And that ends up, this is not the first time, but it's unfortunate that all the districts around the state are affected by, I think, a couple of bad actors, is what frequently happens. So, with that, I guess I'll open it up to whatever else you guys want to talk about.
Okay. Questions anybody has?
Did you have some?
Well, I gave Joel my questions. He kind of said the budget's so too preliminary to answer, but my questions were, is the revenue limit per pupil within that amount going to decrease? Because that's vital to us. And then is specifically in the categorical aids, the transportation sparsity and the per pupil aid. Because the per pupil aid in the categorical aid was only added in 6-7 years ago. So that's kind of a newer one. So I'm more worried about that one than anything else. For us, that's $350,000. So I came in after Governor Walker was in Act 10, so I know that one, to me, would be one of the first ones to be cut, I would look at.
Yeah, I'm guessing it won't be cut, but
okay.
That's my guess. We will see, but that affects every district, obviously.
Right, that's a uniform cut compared to sparsity or transportation, where it depends where you're located at.
Right.
I mean, Southern Door doesn't get sparsity aid, and look at what they're setting compared to us,
Right. So my best guess is it will not be, but it is pretty preliminary. If I talk to you guys in a month or so, I'll know a whole lot more. The way the process works is the governor makes his recommendations, then it goes to Joint Finance, they work it all through, and then we vote on it, then he can veto. Last time he came out with not a very realistic budget, honestly. We ended up giving a lot to education, but what he asked for was, really beyond what was reasonable, and I'm sure he knew that. He was just putting himself in a position to bargain, I guess. I think he'll be more realistic this time with, our economy was really humming along 2 years ago, and now we're waiting for it to bounce back. I do think we will bounce back quickly. I think we're poised to bounce back very well, but we're not there yet.
Other questions anybody has?
Anyone else?
Jared?
Just go over my big pet peeve right here. And that's Wi-Fi in Door County. And whatever you can do from a legislator to force counties, especially rural counties, to develop strategic plans for getting Wi-Fi to like 90% of their population. Door County has chosen, the county has chosen to sit back, leave it to each individual town.
Right. So
it's going to be a hodgepodge of programs, which eventually is not going to work, as opposed to biting the bullet and going ahead and saying we're going to have Wi-Fi in this county. It became apparent to me that the value of Wi-Fi in my old job, because one of my friends who had major heart surgery was monitored on his computer every day by his group in Green Bay. His house burned down, so you probably know who that is. So luckily he owned a bed and breakfast, so they moved around the quarry to the bed and breakfast where there is no Wi-Fi. So then he went to dial up or type of monitoring, which is, totally, so from a healthcare, but sitting in this position now, And with COVID, it has really come to the front of the inadequacies of Wi-Fi in Door County once you leave the Sturgeon-based city limits. It's not hardly existent. And I think that's a disgrace for a county of our quote reputation as the Gold Coast, you know, and we can't even get Wi-Fi. And as luck would have it, I don't know if you know this, but the bar across the street is offering, and we're going to be putting classes over there for kids who don't have Wi-Fi at home, so they can go there on the days, you know, that they're not scheduled for school here. And thank you to them, and I think it would be a great story. Kids are getting their Wi-Fi at the bar. But
They're not in the bar, they're in the dance hall.
at the dance hall. But it's becoming like a telephone or electric lights, and Wi-Fi is part of our life. And for the local, so whatever you can do from a state to force counties to begin looking at this seriously instead of just dismissing it and let the local towns do it, it would be most helpful.
Yeah.
Secondly, just a pet peeve. On Martin Luther King's Day, the COVID testing sites were closed because the state's laboratory was closed because it's a national holiday. And I didn't know in Wisconsin that Martin Luther King's Day is a national holiday in Wisconsin because all the schools are open. You would think even during a pandemic, the state would keep its testing laboratories open to keep all those testing sites open. Just a small thing.
Yeah, you would think so, but to be honest, I called my office to talk to my staff on Monday. I didn't realize they were off either. So, as far as broadband, that was the focus of probably the primary focus of the governor's State of the State. Was that last week, I think, to put more money into broadband. And you're right that the pandemic certainly illuminated the problem and made it very apparent that we need to do better. Door County is actually better than a lot of counties, but I think because of our geography that we have here, there are some really, really dead areas. So I think that's a good idea to have the county come up with a plan rather than, you know, the way the grants work right now. Of course, it's every municipality going in on it and all that. I think it would be a good idea probably for the county to tackle that. But, you know, every budget that I've been involved with, we've put more and more money into broadband, and I suspect that'll be the case. Whether we can put the $200 million in that the governor wants this time, you know, we'll have to see what the numbers are, but I'm sure it will be.
This is an aside on that. In my previous job, I became aware when I would go to Washington and sit on different committees. There is gazillions of dollars in Washington for broadband. You just have to find where it is, in which department. Department of Agriculture has a whole bunch of it. Department of this and Department of that. It's buried away. And so what somebody like a county needs to do is just hire a grant writer and go and search it out and mine it. But anyway.
Okay, well, that's interesting.
Carl, can we make this real around Sevastopol? I forget the numbers of how many students we have that have no access to.
It was 18% when we did the survey in July.
I just wanted,
Yeah,
I wanted you to be able
So
to
it's
have
one
that
out of five,
information, Joe.
right?
Okay, yeah, that's good to know.
And some of that's economic too. I mean,
Sure.
the cost of broadband. But Elon Musk has got all the answers now, so it's just a matter. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, yeah, and who knows what technology is going to be in the future, whether cable will be necessary.
I think it's an economic issue for the county too. It's
Oh,
not
yeah.
just a school issue.
Yeah.
There are people who won't move here if they work from home because they can't get the internet at a reasonable price. That's another part of it. It's not just access, it's the ability to pay for it.
Well, some of them just can't get it because of the
Geography.
Right.
you know, the
Right.
trees.
Right.
York County
Yeah.
has some of the biggest, oldest, most dense trees in the whole state, according to the
Right.
York County.
Yeah, I know during the pandemic, we had people that moved to Door County because they found out they could work from a distance and all that. And Sturgeon Bay was actually listed in one publication as like one of the best places to move because, and part of it was because we have good internet in the city. But you're right, the rest of the county, people would love to be able, now that people are working more from a distance, I think there'd be a lot of people that would like to be able to move here and, you know, and work from a distance, but we need to improve that.
Right.
So,
Well, the last year I was on the Economic Development Council, it was the first time that we started getting reports from up north that tourists were telling people and shop owners up there, this is the last summer they were coming back to Door County because there is no Wi-Fi up here and I'm not gonna vacation here, because I gotta be in touch with my office and do all that stuff while I'm on vacation, and we're not coming back here.
Yeah.
So that 200 million in the governor's budget last year for broadband, is that what you said?
No, it'll be, that's what he proposed for this
Okay,
year.
so where, is that like the USDA grants and?
That's just state money on, that 200 million. I think last time we put in 60 million, and he wants to go up to 200.
Door County does need to do something because we get nothing.
Right.
Yeah, because the
And
numbers
last year, or year before, the village of Egg Harbor got $1 million to improve their downtown. How far could $1 million go?
Yeah.
But the numbers are
Just for one
deceiving
little
when we
town.
say there's 18%, that means 18% have no broadband. There's a whole nother percentage, and I read in the report, have spotty type of broadband. And then if you have 2 kids in the house, you had to run 2 computers at the same time, there's not much out there in that remaining 50% that can do that. I think you have 3 kids. God knows.
And a parent working from home.
And a parent working from home, it's not, it's totally.
Were you guys able to provide hotspots and stuff for kids, or did that?
Yes, except there's still sometimes they're geographically they don't work.
Right.
It's insufficient.
Or they're costly.
But we have, we purchased 30 this summer, and we issued, how many are right now, Steve, do you know about?
27.
27 of the 30 are issued out, but it's families that brought them back because it just did not work where they were geographically located.
Okay. Well, I hear you. I mean, I promise you, I'll certainly advocate for putting as much into that as we can. It's certainly necessary.
And I would say if we can help in any way, Joel, if you need
Okay.
documentation or
Sure.
whatever, I'm sure we'd be happy to provide it
Okay. Appreciate
as you
that.
move through the budget process.
Yeah, I'll try to let you know how that's going.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Any other?
Representative
questions?
Kitchens, on the new ESSA money that's coming out through the federal government, is that a portion that going to the private schools again? Because I had heard that it wasn't, or it was up in the air. Do you have any insight into that?
Yeah, I don't know on that.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. I'm not sure.
Well, thank you for coming out tonight. We appreciate
Yes,
it.
thank you very much. We appreciate your time.
Sure.
Okay, that's good. We'll move on to the consent agenda then. Are there any items that someone wishes to have removed from the consent agenda? It will be approved then by consent with donations of $100 for Wilkie Orthodontics to the Athletics Department, the Corden Family Foundation, $2,500 to the Pupil Services Fund for student clothing and other needs, the Door County Christ Child Society, $500 for Pupil Services Fund for student needs, and the Raybook grant to the music department for the ukulele project.
Just a question on Raybook. Is the school ever going after them for big money? I mean, they're only.
We're not allowed to say how much we have received, but if you talk to me later, I'll tell you.
Okay. I mean, because
We're
they're
doing
allowed to
okay.
give to Sturgeon Bay, the town of Sturgeon Bay and Sevastopol.
In the last 4 years, we've received our fair share.
Okay, good.
We will move then to the administrator reports. Mr. Bear.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Berry. I'd like to start by formally recognizing Mrs. Joanne Surface for her 26 years of service at Sevastopol. I'd like to thank her for all of the things that she's done for our students. Her last day will be next Friday, so if you see her, please congratulate her. I'd like to inform the board, we did start Model 4 at our middle school level, and it's been going really well this week. We identified roughly 40% of our students for in-person learning. We saved about 10% so that we could further identify students that had spotty internet on Wednesdays. And so after yesterday, we did identify additional students that will be coming in person. So it's going really well. I'm glad to see us continue to improve contact or increase contact with our kids. That's been really important. Just met with the Anape Youth Apprenticeship Program, and we started that last year. And we have 12 students currently placed in it, and we are placing an additional 5 second semester, so we'll be up to 17 students. A big portion of that is with the Boys and Girls Club, so that new program has allowed us to place some additional students. I know Ms. McGrath will talk about that in a few minutes. This week we're working hard on registering students for second semester. For next year already. So we're starting to take enrollment projections, and I'll have that information for the board in a short amount of time. One other thing that I'd like to mention this year, ACT Boot Camp. We want to work directly with our juniors to make sure that they have all the skills they need to be successful. I know you're familiar with the steps that we take each year, and we do a lot to prepare our students so that they can put their best foot forward on that test. Typically, we have weekend boot camps. So this year, we're going to take advantage of Wednesdays, and we're going to bring all juniors in on Wednesday, February 17th, and Wednesday, February 24th. So all of our juniors will come in. We'll split them up into 5 groups, and we'll work with them on all the required skills that they'll see on that test. The last thing that I'd like to report is not on my board report, but we've been collaborating with NWTC and Door County Economic Development to bring a 16 to 36 credit program offered by NWTC in CNC machining to Sevastopol. It wouldn't start next year, but our goal is to look for a program that could potentially start in 2022-23 school year. And right now, we've spoken to all the Door County schools. We've been collaborating, of course, with the instructors at NWTC. And this week, tomorrow actually, I'm going to meet with them again. Yesterday, I met with Door County Economic Development Corporation, and we're making plans to meet with our manufacturing alliance and really pitch this idea to them and how much it would benefit our students as well as our community. So if we provide good education, it only benefits our businesses by having trained employees that can help them grow. So we're really having a lot of conversations. It's moving fast, but there's a lot of work to be done, and we're a long way from finalizing all those details. But I'll keep updating you. It's been a great conversation. So, any questions?
Mr. Bear. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Bear? Now we'll move to Mr. Hills.
Good evening, everyone. Just wanted to draw some attention to an event that we held today, our annual spelling bee. It's the 3rd year that we've hosted it. A lot of credit goes to Mr. Showski and Mr. Skiva for putting that all together behind the scenes. Ms. Janquin helps them as well, and a couple of other staff members help set things up and put it all together. And we have Aaron Thomas is going to be the representative from our school. We were able to get 20 kids from all of the different elementary grades. So we had like an A day child, a B day child from each of the different classrooms. And those 20 got together for today's competition. It was nice under the conditions being able to actually host an event like that and keep that going. So it was nice, and kudos to them for helping put that together.
Your report said that was shared virtually somehow.
It will be. It will be.
Oh, it will be, okay.
We videotaped it, and it's just a matter of working with Stephen to make sure that we get it out there and that kind of stuff. So we were lucky enough to be able to have 2 tickets per child. So in most cases, they had both parents who were able to be there and watch, and
Sure.
so it was nice.
Questions for Mr. Hills?
I have a question. Related to, in your report, you referenced the DOJ training that you're going through. How many participants participate in it?
It will be basically the administration team, a number of people from maintenance will be in there. I think altogether it's about 10% of our staff.
And is that a requirement that staff get in order for us to receive that DOJ grant?
Yes, we were supposed to have a training last June in person in Sturgeon Bay, and it obviously got canceled because of COVID, so now they're doing it online. And the reason we picked the custodial staff and administration is because the custodial staff are the ones that are here at night when someone else may not be here, so we want them trained as well as the people that are here during the day, so it was a good balance for us.
I'm very interested in that. I appreciate it if you could bring back what you learned.
Sure. Yeah, those sessions are scheduled for the first week of February.
Thank you. Ms. Margaret.
Hello, everybody. The first where I want to start is a recognition of our English language program. Second semester has brought 7 new students to our school, and 5 of those students are limited English speakers, which means they need significant help in all academic areas. Naturally, it's a big impact on the program, and we will continue to monitor the needs of the program to make sure that the staff and the students have everything that they need. So I wanted to bring it to your attention, but really what I want to recognize is just the English language team themselves. You know, it's led by Dina Saunders and Julie Salisbury, Mary Jackson, and Claudia Bajarona. And I am amazed at what these women do every single day for these students. They help them obviously with all of their academics, but they also help acclimate them to Sevastopol and to Wisconsin. I mean, a lot of these students are coming, you know, from, out of country, and they're here, and we're not only taking care of our students academically, but we're taking care of them socially and emotionally, and then giving them the physical things that they need to be comfortable here in Wisconsin. So when I look at the school board, the agenda that's up here, and I see all these generous donations, I want you to know that they are going to help our students. And just this week, that money has been used to help get our kids some coats and some gloves. So I'm just really, I'm really honored to work with these women. They do a fantastic job, and I did mention to them, I said, I can't imagine a better place for these kids to end up than here at Sevastopol, and to, you know, be taken care of by this team and be empowered by this team to get their education and to be able to move forward. So I really wanted to highlight them tonight. Second part of the that I'd like to talk about is I have some more information about the Boys and Girls Club Learning Center. Just wanted to give you a little bit of background and the evolution of how it came, you know, to be. So we first started the conversation with Boys and Girls Club, and they were given a list of churches or halls or other places within the county, along with the Institute Saloon, to try and find a place for our students. Now, I realize that the Institute Saloon might not be, you know, an ideal location to bring kids in. The Institute Saloon was the one that said yes. And it wasn't because the other people said no. They had pretty specific restrictions on why they couldn't say yes. And it was due to COVID, and it was due to things where they couldn't bring people together in gatherings. And some of them didn't have the proper internet that the kids needed so the kids could access all of their learning. So I really wanted the entire community to know that the Institute Saloon was certainly not the first choice for this, but I'm so happy that they said yes, because we're able to pull something together for kids who need a place to go for additional tutoring support, for additional, different types of activities for when they're not required to be in person. So been working pretty closely with, the Boys and Girls Club. We've been, there's been a building inspector over there, the fire inspector went over there. The hall itself is getting a deep clean tomorrow. So when the students walk in, and then it'll be set up, we're really hoping for a site that is productive, where kids get what they need.
So, listen.
Yeah, please.
So St. Peter and Paul School is not really.
They weren't able to accommodate us due to the COVID. They were actually the first place that I did, and I didn't make these personal phone calls. We generated a list, and we handed off the list to the Boys and Girls Club, and they were the ones that really made those contacts.
A question I was asked on location was there no place in our building, like the multi-purpose center, where kids would have greater access to teachers and other resources?
Absolutely. I mean, that would have been absolutely ideal, but we are so maxed at capacity. You know, the multi-purpose room is used throughout the day mostly for lunches, and then, other activities that go on in there. The school itself was really never considered a location because we're only able to have a certain amount in already. And if we were to have more kids on, then we're putting our entire student body and staff at risk for having more people in the building.
I think it's a great story.
It is a great.
I think, I don't think I take it to the press, but I think it's an awesome story.
It's a great show of
Supporting our little.
support from this community. And those kids don't have to walk in the front door of the
They
institute
will
to
not
get
walk
there.
in.
It's a back door.
No, they won't. They won't even, there's the parking lot that's in the back. They're not going to cross the highway. They come in the back, and, the center will be ready and open.
Well, and it's manned by someone from Boys and Girls Club. It's their program. We're just letting our kids know that it's available. None of our resources are going towards it. And back in October, I sent a letter out to all the parents saying that they offered their Wi-Fi for nothing, but you got to watch your own kids there. And no one was taking advantage of it. So hopefully with a manned person from Boys and Girls Club, and during the pandemic, you can't turn away a good offer like that.
should there be an incident, would it be our district insurance who would cover it? Or
Boys and Girls Club
Boys
is the
and Girls
program. They're
Club?
running the program.
It is
Their
their
program.
so
And
they
Institute
carry the
Salute-
liability?
And Institute Salute has it as property. It's their property, so it's between those two entities.
Okay.
But that's what they got lawyers for. The school, if there was an accident, or the school's gonna get drawn into it by some lawyer anyway.
Oh, yeah, I know.
What's the client staff ratio?
One staff to 12 students, so we have a maximum of 24 students a day that can be there.
Are you getting registration?
We are, it's coming in slowly. I think people are truly trying to warm up to maybe the location, right? I don't know. But what we're doing now is I've talked to all the elementary school teachers and some of the middle school teachers, and I've asked, I said, who's not getting their work done over, when they're at home? And we know our students who have challenges, and making personal touch points and phone calls with those families just to make sure that they understand that it is available to them. One of our EL support persons, Ms. Baharona, is calling the EL families to explain it, to explain the program. And I have the application and the fact sheet all translated for them. So really reaching out and seeing how this program can work for them or not, because it is a choice whether or not they want to go or not. It's just nice to be able to, like Mr. Bear said, offer something else, to keep offering something, because in this, we're not seeing the end of this yet, so if we can keep increasing opportunities, then I feel like we're doing the job that we need to be doing for our community.
I'd like to,
Any other questions for Mrs. Margraf?
I'd like to mention something on what you were talking about, the ELL. Myself being the open enrollment coordinator, I get all the open enrollment people that want to open enroll here. We have had a major influx of Spanish-speaking students come to us, one, because of Mrs. Saunders, and two, because of the work that the ELL program is doing. Those parents of the kids that are here are talking to the other parents, and they're saying you need to go to Sevastopol because they have a great program. We have, those ladies are doing, and especially Dina is doing a wonderful job with all of those parents in that whole program, because we've gotten many different families and kids through open enrollment because of what they're doing.
Hey, Carl, I really appreciate that. I think it was probably 3 or 4 years ago, we sat down and said, we need to do a better job of making a connection, with our families, making sure that they feel like Sevastopol is their school. And over the course of, the 3 years or so that this team has kind of come together, I think we're really making that impact, and it feels really good to do that.
Thank you. And then we have a nice little report from the ELL department within our board packet. And we'll move on. Does anybody have questions regarding the athletic directors and gifted and talented coordinator report? There aren't any there. We'll move to Mr. Lutke.
Every Thursday morning, I meet virtually with Dorothy Public Health and Dorothy Medical Center. Last week, we were preparing, in fact, we sent a survey out last week Friday to our staff to get ready to get vaccinated, because we thought the recommendation of the state would be 70-year-old plus people would qualify, and all school employees. And then we found out this week that it was 65 plus and not school employees at this time. So that's been put on hold, and as soon as we know anything, we'll get it out to our staff as soon as possible. And then we have two funding sources coming in from Road to Recovery funds. One's from Jacksonport for $1,575, the other one's from the town of Sevastopol for $34,948. Those amounts came in because they received Road to Recovery money from the state, and if they had room for their allotment that they weren't going to use, they reached out to us. We could claim our needs for COVID, and they had to be qualifying ones, because like technology did not count, personnel did not count. And we submitted those and have been awarded that money from the municipality. So I'd like to thank those municipalities for reaching out to us to make that offer, and we have the checks here, so it's helpful for us. We've spent over $100,000 on PPGs, hand sanitizer, signage, all the kind of things, and technology. And that's not counting the personnel we've increased for this year. So it's nice to get a portion of it back, so.
Great, thank you. The only thing I want to mention is I went to staff development a couple of weeks ago. Staff development is a group of teachers and a couple of administrators that talk about what does staff want to be educated on, be developed on. And there's not a lot of time for that because there are so many things that are required. But in that discussion, and I don't remember which superintendent, which administrator said it, but they turned them back to the strategic plan and said, look within the strategic plan, perhaps there are areas that we can use for professional development. So that's not forgotten. There's obviously people within the school are thinking about it and using it. That's it. Communications Committee, I met on January 11th. The committee is working on the winter newspaper, and which will come toward the end of February, I think, 1st of March. And then they continue to work on the commemorative edition for the 1924 and 1948 schools that are going to be taken down this summer. So those are interesting projects. Property building and security. Would like to
Well,
speak to
sure.
that.
We met and took another tour of the school, the new school facility, and it was just amazing where we have come from facilities, the new facilities, to what we've been putting up with for how many years in these old facilities. So, kudos to Kyle and the committees that put together the design for that school. I think it's really going to be a premier offering for our school. We also looked at a lot of projects that we could include while construction crews were here. Some of these projects we're going to be talking about a little later on, further on in the meeting. But, things like, for instance, the solar panel project, which is kind of a no-brainer project. The solar panels be included in the new addition. Certainly, we're going to take a hard look at our sports facilities and take a look at that. But a lot of different projects like paving and doing a lot of projects. The face room is a big major consideration. Even though they're going to have the same space in their room, we're looking at probably a major renovation, especially on the commercial kitchen side. Tara has really put together a really ambitious plan for remodeling that space, and hopefully we can come up with funding or take a look at that project as well. So I think, a lot of these projects, renovating different rooms, makes sense now. Financially, I think the school district's in great shape that we can afford to go ahead with some of these additional projects in this facility, the 65 facility, and get those done while we're constructing the new facility. So I think that's a good point. The school is financially able to get some of those things done while this new facility is being built.
Yeah, and I think we're going to be looking at some of those projects later in the meeting, so we won't dwell on them right now.
Right.
Did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
No,
Okay.
yeah, that's good.
No, well said.
Okay.
There are savings if you can do it when these crews are here. Start doing stuff using those crews.
Yeah, especially the asphalt, the paving.
And anything you want to put under the asphalt. It's hard to work on something after you put it down.
So, yeah. So,
The budget report.
Budget report. At the end of December, you will see our fund balance, and that is approximately $600,000 less than last month. December's our lowest point in the financial year because now here in January, we'll start getting property tax checks. We haven't gotten any yet, Carl.
Yeah, we are. We're getting them from the municipalities. I've gotten a check from each municipality within the last week and a half.
Okay.
But we
So-
haven't, that's just people that have paid their taxes at their local municipality. We will get another one from the county for the people who paid it through the county.
I don't think any of our municipalities pay to their town anymore. They all pay to the county. Maybe town of Sturgeon Bay, but Egg Harbor, Sevastopol, and Jacksonport all pay their taxes to the treasurer.
To
in
the treasurer?
courthouse.
Well,
You do the courthouse too?
we,
I don't know what you're getting from the town, but the
well,
county gets all of our tax
the money,
dollars.
the checks are coming actually from the towns.
Or maybe they issue them to the town.
County sends it to town, town sends us our portion.
It's a big circle.
Yeah.
Well, you can see that in December, that was our low point for the year. And now that this month, Carl will make those deposits and that'll increase against our fund balance is in great shape. Any other highlights you should have, Carl?
Just that the CARES Act money, the original CARES Act money of the original that came out the first time around was, we did our claim and we got the money back for that of the 54,208. We've gotten our money back from that with the claim. Now we'll see what has to be done with the new one that's coming through and what we get for that. How much we're getting on that, nothing's been put out yet.
And then you can see on there that our expenses for the construction incurred this last month was $1,955,616.11. So,
Any questions for Mr. Litty or Carl on the budget report? If there are none, we'll move to your facilities report.
current building is fine. There's nothing really to report on that. The building project, the biggest obstacle we had in the last couple of weeks was the increase in the asbestos abatement. When we demolished the 46 and 24 sections, it's cheaper to abate the concrete and then haul that away to a compost center that will accept that kind of material that's already been abated. The wood structures, it's cheaper to leave the asbestos on it and haul it farther away to landfill that will accept hazardous materials. And so we had to go out to bid to have our abatement project done, and winning bid was $79,331. We have an allotment of $250,000 for abatement. We'll also have a bill quite significantly less to have all the sink traps taken out of the building, because we don't know which rooms in the last 100 years were used for science and which ones could maybe have mercury in them. You also have all the switches that are for your exit lights, your thermostats, all those materials have to be removed. It's probably going to be about $20,000 to $25,000. We don't know. We'll find out next week when folks come in and start giving us bids on those. Regardless, we have $250,000 sitting there, and we spent about $80,000 so far, so it's going to be just north of $100,000. And then we have to save on to that, because when they start knocking into the walls and stuff, they may find a surprise in the walls or in the soil or something, so we hang on to that. But Myron and Gray are pretty confident that we're in good shape in that financial area, but we're going to hang on that to the bitter end because we have to, because we don't know what surprise you might get from the last dump truck hauls it away. So until that happens, and then that makes it interesting, because if you have that money sitting there and you don't spend it, at that point in the project, all the flooring and cabinetry and all the bells and whistles are in the new addition. You can't add to it at that point because it's completed. So you got to find something outside the building to work on, which would be more pavement or landscaping items like that, or maybe out in the field or whatever. The bleachers at least are failed inspection 3 times. So it's a interesting part. The building itself, the new building, is in quite a bit of stages. There's rooms that are painted with LED lighting already in them, and then there's others that still have the block wall that they're working on. If you walk out there, you don't need a jacket because they got a nice temperature with it. And that's because the paint's got to dry, the mud for the drywall's got to be at the right temperature, so they keep it really comfortable out there, and that's on purpose. There's also, you should know, there's an allotment for winter care of $200,000. We haven't had a snow day yet, so they're in really good shape out there. The skylight was supposed to be here in November. It's still not here. Now they're saying it'll be here by the end of January. But they put a temporary one up in its place to keep it fully enclosed. Before, 2 weeks ago, they had it still open, just that area, they had a false wall up. And they said as soon as they put it up, they said, well, I guarantee it's not going to snow for 3 weeks, because if we wouldn't put it up, it would snow. If we put it up, it won't. So that's where we're at with that. So we're in good shape with the building process. Once a week, I'm giving tours, Monday night, 4:30. If anyone wants to go, show up in the lobby, and I'll take you out door number 6 and walk you around and show you the facilities. We go at 4:30 because the crew gets done typically at 4 o'clock. And the next 2 Wednesdays, 4K through 5th grade are going to get to go out there 9:30 in the morning, because the entire crew, which is about 70 guys, they have a mandatory meeting at 9:30 every Wednesday morning, a standing meeting. And so when they shut down, they're going to clean it up so we can walk the kids to their new classrooms for next year, and they can see the new digs. So it's pretty exciting.
If you haven't been out there, go on a tour, because the whole thing is impressive, but when you walk down that hall where you start with the art rooms and the tech ed area and ag, it is going to be, it's going to be spectacular. It's really going to be a showpiece. So
When do you do your tours?
It'll be Monday at 4:30. If you read my Friday flyer, I wasn't put on there what day I'm going on. But it's always 4:30, and I pick a different day of the week based on my other scheduled meetings and such. But next week it's Monday.
It won't be as long, but if that 9:30 time works, you're more than welcome to join us on those Wednesdays.
Yeah, you guys can come with the kids if you want. And I can sneak 9:30 on Wednesdays, and I can sneak one of you out there with me. I just can't take a whole group, but it's easier when the guys aren't working.
it's going to be something. Sue, did you have anything timely you need to report that isn't on your written report tonight?
I just wanted to add that I did receive an email, I believe it was on the 15th of January, indicating that if I wanted to provide some input to the state subcommittee making decisions about the vaccine, and particularly phase 1B, that I could email them. And so I did email them and let them know that we were very interested in having our staff eligible to receive the vaccine as soon as possible. So we'll see where that all goes, but I was pleased to have that opportunity to provide some input for the board.
We'll move to old business then. We have a series of second readings on policies. We can take those as a group now, so would someone like to make a motion on those policies for second reading?
I would move to approve the second reading of the policies listed in item 8A for approval.
Second.
Questions or discussion?
That's a question. Again, your policies just drive me to drink. I have never seen more policies in my life.
Just wait, Jerry,
Well,
there are a whole lot more
But it
coming.
doesn't go along with what a definition of a policy is, but that's a place. So we have a use of tobacco and nicotine by support staff, and then we also have a use of tobacco and nicotine by the professional staff. Why don't we just have a simple policy that says tobacco and tobacco products are not allowed on the premises, period?
We use Neola for our.
I understand, but then you pay
they,
for stuff.
and they break it into the 2 groups, the 2 subgroups.
Why?
I'm not 100% sure why, but that's their system, because they don't want to miss one and one in the other, so they do it this way. I know that's why they are.
But
Because
there are
there's some that
policies.
are only specific for one group, one
Well,
subgroup.
then you can do it, but if there's a policy that covers everybody, then why load up with another policy?
I can ask them.
I'm asking, why do you have to have such a complicated policy to say you're not allowed to have tobacco and tobacco products on the premises? Period. That's what ours, in my old job, that's what our policy was, except for the nursing home. Because if you're a smoker and you come into the nursing home, you have a right to continue to smoke.
And Jerry, we met with our Neola representative on, what day was that, Kyle? Tuesday, I think?
Yes, it was Tuesday.
One day this week, and there are a whole lot more policies coming.
There was,
Well, what I kind of agree with you, but I assume there is a long history of slowly developing policies
Yeah.
over a long, long time. So to actually start to clean this up, it's an effort that I don't recognize somebody
Yeah,
would take.
And it's a national effort.
yeah, this is their system is statewide, nationwide, so I wouldn't want to tell them this, customize it for us.
I understand, but my dark side says, if I'm in the business of producing policies, and I get paid by schools for giving you policies all nicely written, I'll make sure you get more policies and not less policies, because there's nothing in it for me to say, you don't need this policy anymore.
Well, it is interesting if every school, or a large number of schools is paying a single company, that's a good question. Because
there are-
if everyone's pouring money into this company,
Not everyone uses the same company. Some school districts use WASD.
And some school districts just go out on their own, make their
Yes.
own, which is a problem because, I'll tell you, my last two districts did that. And if you miss something, you get your update from WSAB, hey, you should be doing this, and you don't have a policy and you didn't take the time to author it and write it.
The reverse argument is, you have a policy and it's violated, now you're liable for it. Because you're violating your policy and you're not gonna go to court for that. As opposed to, I don't have a policy on that, so I can't get sued for allowing something to happen.
You can get sued for not having the policy.
That's difficult. I think that's very difficult to get sued for not having a policy. You can get sued much more easy for not following your policy.
Yeah,
I'm just saying,
they're both
you better,
true.
so I guess the reason I meant is that the school district better really understand all of its policies. Because that is like now your legal thing to go down. And if you don't follow a policy and you skip it or forget you got it, and something happens, you're at risk for that. So I was always trained and brought up in the world of the fewer the policies, the better off you are. But that's just a whole different view of things.
Well, maybe you could pose some of those questions to Neola next you meet with them.
We can talk that through, but
This is the public sector.
This school district has been down the road years ago of its own
Is it?
policy.
This is the public sector. That's,
I had to deal with 100,000-page Medicare regulations. I did not have 100,000 policies.
public sector, private sector, I mean, it's.
well, that's not true. The issue is funding. I was in the military for 20 years, and I was part of, for a couple years, a large effort to go through every military policy on the books. And it was not fun, and a lot of people did it, and they cleaned up a lot of, they had lots of silly policies that were finally cleared up across. But to your point, or someone said it's a nationwide, it's all the public schools, and for one school to get and jump into that, I think is a challenge. So I'm not sure that's an effort we're ready to lead, because we're paying attention, we're kind of busy
I'm
around
just giving
here.
a perspective from outside here, like, this is,
Well, and the policy book is not, the policy book is not easy to read, and it's hard to find a policy when you want to know about something. I think it must be hard for staff to find the policies, because I can't find them.
maybe we can get some legislative relief on policies.
We'll get right on that.
So we could put that on as a separate agenda item in the future if we want to talk about why we do it this way.
It just,
On this one, there's a motion and a second to approve that second reading of policies. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The reopening plan, educational model.
you heard the middle school is adjusting here with the first week of the second semester. Other than that, we do not have any more recommendations to change from where we're at. We're going to stay steady the course. Our cases of COVID are down right now. I guess I'm personally surprised. I thought after Christmas break it might pop up 2 weeks later. We haven't had that. We have 2 active cases right now. But I don't see us adjusting. We've sat down as a team again today and said, okay, how would we get more kids in the building? How would you do it? couldn't figure out a good way without jeopardizing the space limits we have already. And we'd like to keep the sports the way it is currently. We're allowing 1 fan per athlete for the high school basketball team. We do have high school wrestling and swimming in our co-ops with Sturgeon Bay. We do not have middle school sports going at this time, and I'm not recommending to pick that up at this point because end of February, then I'll go back to volleyball and football. Our fall sports will be back in action. So the recommendation is just to stay the course right now.
There won't be gym space because they'll need gym space and the spring sports will want to be getting into the gym.
Well, yeah, and there's an educational component to it too. Our high schoolers do better online than our middle schoolers, and if, you know, Saturday, for example, our girls team is supposed to play Gibraltar, their girls team is shut down right now because of COVID. And so the Norris had it, we've had it, everyone takes their turn at being shut down. So I feel we're better off not offering middle school sports at this time and just keep doing what we're doing.
Kyle, I have a question. As you start to hear more about the vaccine and the opportunity for students to get the vaccine, do we anticipate that the families that chose not to come to school will now want to re-enroll?
Well, the vaccine's not available for 16 and younger yet. So the students won't get it, because we had that discussion today. We said, okay, well, the whole staff gets it, then can we bring all the kids? Well, the kids are spreaders, you're putting them in a little bit of risk. If I say a little bit, because the under 20 group hasn't had a death in Wisconsin, so they're more stronger against it, but then they still spread it amongst their own extended family and such. So
Okay,
yeah, we
but
did have the
if we
discussion.
take the kids out of the picture,
Yeah.
once, I guess my point is more like, once the vaccine is available, do we anticipate that the families that have withdrawn from Sevastopol will now want to re-enroll?
I don't know how to, I don't know how to judge that, because some are not coming because they're concerned about COVID, and others are staying home because we require masking at school. So we have both ends of the spectrum there. When we came out with all of our plans, when I sent out to parents, I get emails from some parents saying, you're being way too cautious, and I get another email saying you're not being taking enough precautions. So which group would come back then, I don't know.
The
Yeah,
answer is we won't know.
yeah, and they can't get if they're really scared of COVID for their family, and there's no vaccine for 16 and under, I wouldn't think they'd come back then until that's available, which I don't know when that's gonna occur. We haven't heard any discussion on that. So we're quite a few months away from that occurring.
I just wondered if there was any fervor out there about that, and if you were hearing anything.
You guys get anything from any parents or anything saying they're, you know?
I think in some situations, it's the individual family's health conditions that they're most concerned about. So maybe if those family members are vaccinated and they're not as concerned, then we might see students come back in those families. But overall,
Door County Medical Center said that when they offered to their employees, about 60% accepted the vaccine right away of their own employees, and then another 10% a little while later said they wanted, so they got to about 70%. When the school districts were surveyed of who would take the vaccine, 5 out of 6 people said, yeah, they'd take the vaccine of those that completed the survey. The Door County Medical Center told us that there's 3 camps of people: those that are rushing that, yes, I want it right now, those that are vaccine hesitant, and those that say, no, I'm never going to get the vaccine. And so when the survey went out to our staffs, and I mean our staff, it was all the Door County School District staff. If, in my opinion, if you were, no, I'm never going to get the vaccine, why would you fill out the survey? You know, I got this survey for public health. Well, so what? You know, I don't have to fill it out. We never gathered information of who filled it out or not. It went right to Door County Public Health because that wasn't our information. So I don't think we'll be any better than the hospital or the rest of the world when it comes to our staff getting the vaccine.
what I want to say is when we thought that our staff might have an opportunity to take the vaccine, we were able to extend that to substitute teachers. And I was able to contact subs that haven't been in the building all year, and they were excited to get the vaccine and said, we'll be back to work as soon as we can if we can get the vaccine.
It's probably going to be March.
As you talk to people, that's interesting how you explain that. That's when I talk to people in the community, at work, or wherever, at other schools, through friends. That's exactly what you hear. Those 3 pockets, so their observations are what I'm seeing too. Some people are racing for it, others are not. And others just have questions, you know, because it's so new. So it's interesting how that will play out.
I think you'll see a movement in the middle group when they start seeing that their friends aren't falling down dead in the street
Right.
after they get their vaccine.
Experience and knowledge.
Right,
Everyone
after they
hears the
see
one or
some
two
new
stories,
story.
right? 'Cause
Mhm.
someone has an adverse reaction and then that spreads like wildfire and then all of a sudden that settles down and so that's what,
I think with any vaccine, I mean, there's people out there that just, I mean, whether it's the flu vaccine, whether, I mean,
polio
parents
vaccine?
not vaccinating their kids, there's some conspiracy that it's,
yeah.
I don't know, I mean.
Well,
All
some
vaccines
people
do
take
cause
advantage
something,
of that.
can cause something, because it's causing your antigen bodies.
Well,
to
right,
be-
but it's your own body reacting to it.
Yeah,
It's
that's right.
not, they're not injecting you with some poison, I mean, it's your
No.
body.
Not just. I mean, it used to be vaccines were dead, but where they were either live viruses, dead viruses, or whatever. This is totally artificially made from messenger RNA.
Anyway, there's,
Some of us are just needle adverse.
Question, are we the only school now, district in Door County doesn't have 5 days a week school? I mean, Sturgeon Bay's had it for a long time, Southern Bell's always had it, and Gibraltar's back.
Gibraltar, I don't know if they're every day though.
I thought they were coming back every day after the first year.
They're-
That could be rumor.
I don't know, Mr. Fair
Hybrid
talked to their
schedule.
principal, I don't know how many days they're there.
Do you know, did
Yeah,
you,
hybrid
2 and
schedule.
2?
do you know about that, Mr. Bear?
I know quite a bit about their middle school, high school schedule. Yeah, it's a
Are they
hybrid
acting
schedule.
every day? Everybody all day?
Nope, they have a hybrid schedule that they're using at the middle school, high school. They have students are scheduled for 10 classes, and they meet in 2 classes a day. So they have the first half of the day, they have 1 class, it might be math, second half of the day they have English. And then they don't have that class again until the following Monday.
So they're not all back.
So help me answer the question. I'm not here to debate the issue, but help me answer the question. If Sturgeon Bay and Southern Door can have 5 days a week, every day programming now, why can't Sevastopol?
We could. However, when they have a kid with COVID, they shut down a whole classroom. And so they're quarantining more per attempt. We're not quarantining as many per case. They're sending their kids home in groves. And we're sending them home. I don't know when's the last time we sent a kid home because of contact with another individual here, because we're able to maintain the 6-foot rule.
So it's really a limitation of the 6-foot rule.
Yeah, each of our classrooms, you go down their hallway, you'll see a number in the hallway, of how many kids, how many occupancies can be in that room and still maintain social distancing, right?
And I can't speak to Southern Door, but obviously Sturgeon Bay, they've got the benefit of most of their families being able to access internet. So if you have to teach remotely, you're able to do that more effectively, where anytime we have to send groups of kids home, that's 20% of our student population that's not able to access.
One question, and if I can't ask this right now, let me know. This actually jumps back to one of the reports about, because of what's going on math testing, and someone was requesting an evaluation if math testing was gonna happen. Is that right? Is that, are we still doing math testing this year? I'm just curious.
We're still math testing.
Currently.
From the state requirements and stuff.
Oh,
Oh,
well,
yes.
MAP is a local
It's a
test.
local.
Oh, that's what we do.
That's a local
Yeah.
test. We use it as a
But
universal screener. I'm sorry, you want to speak to
Yeah,
that?
state testing is still, right now, we're still required to do all the state testing. Like ACT is still going to be March 9th, and then our access testing, that's still, right now, everything is a go.
Oh, so maybe I'm still, MAP is just something local that Sevastopol
Yeah,
is?
but we're still doing it.
Wisconsin forward testing, the state testing is still required as well.
Thank you, I probably misunderstood when I
Yeah,
heard
that
that.
works.
Any other questions on the opening plan? Then we'll move to the 10-year maintenance plan.
Your first sheet has a list of 13 projects, and I'll walk through them. Paving the parking lot. Where the fence is on the south side of the construction, the pavement goes about 6 feet to the south of that. So the rest of the driveway to Rip Road is not included in the building project. The pavement in the front is as well, is in the project, and where the 1924 section of the building is, that's included. So we have a ballpark figure, it's pretty good. Well, it's the one figure we got. We're looking for a second bid, Myron's working on it. To pave the remainder would be $250,575. And while you have the crew here is the time to get the best price on that project, and that's when it should be done. And then on our north playground, there's a water flow issue. Water always stands in the playground, doesn't flow off right. Well, now we got the retention pond behind the new 4K, 5K wing, and we can get the water to flow into there and repave that portion. And the reason the pavement is so bad on that playground is every day we drive our buses on it twice a day to make the turn there. So we can solve that issue too for about 100 grand. We don't have an exact number on that, but that number comes from Bray and Myron. Another project is bricking the 1965 north wall. So that'd be the north wall of the gym from the new north entrance to around to the 3-story portion of the building where the current elevator is, because the current elevator stays. So we're going to put the brick onto that portion there. That wasn't in the original project. District office, we're going to renovate that area because Carl, Jean, and I are moving down there, and Dan Petrino will end up down there in offices. And we want to put a permanent concession stand in the
Front half of the...
southeast corner.
Right.
Yeah, because Dale Carlson's always hauling all this stuff from the ag room to there, and now in the new addition, he's going to have the farthest room away. So it'll give him a permanent home and give us a permanent home. And I guess I should go over that too. Okay, so at the end I'll go over abatement. Well, I'll do it right now. The abatement process is going to be really wild because they're going to do it in stages. They're going to abate and demolish in around the building counterclockwise. They're going to knock down the connector between where Rock Lottenbach's office is and the 91 gym. They're going to knock that connector down first when they demolish because there's no asbestos in that area. While they're tearing that down, the 1946 shop and our current high school art room, they're going to remove furnishings out of there, and we're hiring a moving company to help us with this because there's no way we can get it done in a timely fashion, because this is May 24th we're talking about. They'll move the furnishings out, and then Myron will come in and remove all cabinetry or anything that's obstructing the abatement company from getting the asbestos out of that wing. After they do that, then the demolition company come over to the 1946 section and start tearing it down. And the moving company will continue to move the furniture out of the 1924 section. Myron will continue moving cabinets and anything that's in the way of getting them to abate the 1924 section of the building. Then when they start demolishing the 1924 section, they're going to start on the south side because Megan Horvat's 5K room, her north wall is part of the 1924 section. So they got to peel that off, and then they'll start from south to north. And as soon as they get far enough to the north to allow clearance, the construction company's going to come in and put a 3-story stairwell in there because we have to have fire egress out of there. And so that's going to be the timeliest part of the whole project, is getting that done. Meanwhile, while that's being demolished, they're going to take out they got to clear out, it's exactly the same thing, move cabinets and any items that have to be abated in the 1965 part, because we have our we have some tiles that are asbestos, like in the face room and down the hallway by the locker rooms. But sometimes it's not the tile, sometimes it's the massive glue between the tile and the cement floor that has to come off. And so they're going to come to the 1965 part and do that area. So it's going to be in stages. And the reason I tell you that by now when I'm talking about the district office is because that's all part of that, because we got asbestos, because that's what they used in the 60s and earlier. So it's just now, and the best time to get it is when the folks are here. So that bid I told you, 79,000, that includes the 46, 24, and 65. That's everything. So we really are sitting on $250,000, and it's 80,000 to get that all removed. So we really came out pretty good on all that, but it could have been a lot worse. At least Myron planned on it being worse. So district office, the removal of steps in the 1965 hallway, that's the science wing, the half flight of stairs that goes into the gym. We don't need that for fire egress because on the north side there's exit outside and then there's exits on the west side. We don't need that. And that stairwell, if you're walking on the second floor, it's always open, so that will get addressed. And then we have the first floor work in the 1964, which will be ceiling tiles, lights, the floor coming out, and then of course we'll do a paint job as well. Renovating the English classroom. This is a small project, but while the crews are here, it's the time to take it. It's the room over here where Sarah Morosky has it. It was originally, I don't know how it originally was built. It was last used as a computer lab, and it has the island in the middle. If you've ever been in that classroom, all the students can't face the teacher at one time because it's, well, you sit around the outside edge at the countertop, and then the middle has an island where those kids face each other, so there's no way every kid can look at the teacher at one time. It was used as a computer lab and it was okay at that time, but when I went to revert back to an English classroom, it's not the answer, so we're going to address that for $25,000. We don't know what the flooring is underneath the carpet in there, so we're assuming it's hot. And then playgrounds. Currently, our current playground could use some attention. The rubberized surface has holes in it, some of the equipment's getting outdated. And we'd like to put a new playground in on the inside of the building project. The new building makes like a horseshoe, and if you go inside the 4K room, there's a 90 by 45 area where we can put a 4K through first grade playground. And by having that, it gives us two spaces, which would allow us some flexibility with scheduling, because you could have younger kids out there and then the older kids out there at the same time and utilize the space better. And then we have the projects out at the ball field, projects 10 through 13, bleachers, press box, the track needs resurfacing, the football field can use crowning and drainage correctly, sod and sprinkler system, and then the concession stand, the Booster Club is wanting running water and bathrooms out there. We never have bathrooms. I've met with Rettler, Hutchinson, and Point of Beginnings. And my recommendation for projects 10 through 13 is to give that back to the Building and Grounds Committee to work with. I just met with Point of Beginnings this morning on it. And Hutchinson and Point of Beginnings, they don't want to work against each other, they want to work together on it. And they don't care which one will be in charge of it, it's a horse apiece to them. Point of Beginnings got in the mix because they've done all the survey work on the new addition, so they kind of got some lay of the land out there already, and they're willing to waive some of their fees. Rettler is a very reputable company as well. They have no history with us, and they'd be coming in fresh. But I would like those two companies to come to a Building and Grounds Committee meeting and present their options of what would be the right answer for out there. We do have a few problems out at that field because where the fence is, cutting it off in the woods, you can't go too many feet into the woods and you're in wetland. So you gotta stay pretty true to that fence there, and our light poles limit us to the track being exactly where it is. You can't expand it out. Lots of facilities, high schools have 8-lane tracks. That's not a possibility with ours. So we're not looking at expanding, we're just looking at improving what we have. So what I'm looking for the board would be to approve these projects with the caveat that you would throw, I missed one. What did I miss?
Did you miss the face room?
I missed the
think?
face room, yes, okay, which Dick talked about. That's the one I missed. Tara Leclerc has met with Bray's architect, and Tara's done almost probably more drawing than the architect has done, because she's got lots of ideas of how to get it. She's been in contact with other folks and how to stay in the physical space, but renovate it so it's more like a face room of 2021 compared to, I don't know, the 80s when Carl was here. You know. So she's done quite a bit of work on it, and now's the time to do it. So what I'm looking for the board is to say, yes, start moving ahead with these, but projects 10 through 13 should run through the committee, and I'd keep the committee updated on all of these. And then you're wondering, okay, how do we afford all these? Well, on your next page, the revenue sources. Currently, we have $680,000 in our contingency budget. We started with $1 million. We're sitting in pretty good shape because we're in January now. They're not going to have too many more surprises along the way because we're framed in. Other allowances we have is when we had an allowance for bedrock because we're in Door County and there's limestone. And we have $93,000 in savings in the bedrock allowance because we didn't use the whole amount. We got to save a little bit of that, like 20,000 or so, because when they take down the 24 and 46 section, they may have to extract some more to level it off flat out there. The demolishing portion of the project, we went out to bid in March, and the original bid was, I can't remember, $848,000 maybe? Well, Myron didn't like that bid, and so we rebid that portion of the project, and the second time we had bid day for that, the demolishing allowance was, the cost that came in was $304,000 less. So we have that money that we've saved in that area. Furnishings in the new building, there was a allowance of $715,000. We've had our first purchase for the furnishings in the new building, and it's at $370,000. This last week, I had more meetings with teachers, with the architects, so they could see the 3D design. And Tuesday night, I took some out there on the tour. We've added a few things, but it's very minor. It's like a whiteboard, tack board, a couple $100 items, nothing great. So we're going to have some FF&E money allowed at the end. And then abatement, like I mentioned earlier, we spent $80,000 so far, and we have an allotment of $250,000. And then winter allotment, we can't spend the whole much with the amount of winter we've had. There's just no way.
You jinxed us now.
Well, I know it's gonna snow the first week of August, with 3 days of fog, I
Pretty sure
know.
it's right next week, so thank you.
Snow day tomorrow. Okay. And then the money we received, the first 20 million we received, of course, has some interest growing on that. And we have Fund 46, because we've, over the years, not done building projects, because before the referendum passed, we did not know what to spend it on, because we want to spend it on a portion of the building we're going to tear down. So we have Fund 46 available, and then we have some money in our current budget. Our fund balance is also very healthy. It's at 59%. The auditor says it could be at 25%. If we took all the projects on our fund balance, we'd still be significantly saving the savings there. So we're in good shape financially, and like Jerry said, when the crews are here, that's the time to get the work done, because, well, for example, if we had outside local contractors come in and handle the district office renovation, that isn't going to be as cheap as if we have the tradesmen all here with Myron and Bray. And to them, they look at that one room, and that's no big deal. To if we hired other people to do it, that's a big project for them. Where Myron's like, well, we got the crew, that's just a few more square feet to us, it's not. They look at this list and like, whatever, and they're not overwhelmed at all. Their overwhelming part is going to be the demolishing and putting that 3-story stairwell back up. That's the part that they're concerned about. They're not concerned about anything else on this list, so.
Okay, would someone like, to move this along, would someone like to make a motion to approve moving ahead with items 1 through 9? That includes paving the parking lot, the playground water flow, bricking the north wall, the district office, the 65 hall step removal, the 1965 first floor work, renovating the English classroom, renovating the face room, and the playgrounds.
I move we move forward with the items listed from 1 through 9 on the building and grounds list.
I'll second.
Any other questions or discussion on those items? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. And then, is there a motion to refer items 10, 11, 12, and 13, that's the bleachers, track, football field, concession stand, back to the athletic committee? Not the athletic committee, the building and grounds committee, for additional research and planning.
So moved.
Well, are we approving the budget to go move forward with these, but the building and grounds will fine tune these packages and see if we can get better deals from these estimates with the teams involved? Isn't that, would that?
It's either way. Either it would go back to committee and the committee reports back to the full board, or the board can give the committee the power to handle this. And when I give you my estimates, like everything else I do in the budget, I always do revenue low, estimate low, and I always do estimate on the cost of a project high.
Those are summer projects, aren't they?
But this is this summer when everyone's here,
I
yeah.
know, but I still feel until that building is down, I don't go run and spend everything yet, because that's where I think of the entire project, that's the riskiest part of the whole project.
What part?
Huh?
What part do you believe?
Taking the old building down. You don't know what you're gonna find. and,
Taking
oh
it
my
down
God,
the
we did-
basement.
That wasn't on the plans, we didn't know that there's no wall here, I mean, like, and when that's down, then the project is, then you're sledding into the home stretch, but,
So then your motion, Jerry, would be to simply refer it back to the Building and Grounds Committee
They come back here?
to come back to.
Yeah, because it's a summer project, so it's not gonna
Well,
cost
but
us any.
You gotta be booking now for summer projects.
Yeah,
That's
it's
a fact.
January.
Everyone is booking. You wanna get,
Because-
the first time we did bleachers, we delayed sports because we didn't get the bleachers done.
Okay.
You said tennis balls and
Things are busy. We need to get moving now on these things if we're gonna do them.
The other problem is,
So you recommend we just go ahead with these after they?
Well, what I would recommend is that, and there'll be continued status, and I would recommend that, you evaluate the budget, and if you look at the budget is, we're not getting in an unsafe position by moving forward with these.
Okay.
So what I would recommend is we approve the budget like a not to exceed, and these are probably conservative estimates. I think over the last year, we have found that all the estimates we've had have been conservative. That bodes well. This is not like out of the blue we're trying something, right? And as far as the abatement on the building, our team that we hired has been good with their estimates. And that's where we're in a healthy place in that car. Are your risks? Sure, I don't think so. That's why he meets weekly with them, right? And so I don't disagree with that, but I don't see that risk there. Because it's a lot easier to get approval and move forward and get the ball rolling, and then if something really just doesn't make sense, we'll report, the building committee can continue to report back, but if we're gonna do it, we need to.
So I'll modify my motion based upon
Date,
what our Arizona guest said.
Dave, is there a motion, did Jerry make one?
Yes.
what do you got, Carl?
I have nothing right now. I mean, Jerry had mentioned something, but it was not really a
Okay, then
motion.
go ahead. How would you like that? Why don't you make the motion then? You know what you want to say.
Dave, make a motion.
I move that
I'm gonna
we,
withdraw
the
your
board
motion.
approves item 10 through 13 for the budget numbers estimated. The execution should be managed by the Building and Grounds Committee for a streamlined planning of that effort. And of course, the school board will continue to be status. And as issues come up, that would be brought back as needed.
I'd be happy to second that motion.
Jack, I'm gonna say this, and if you disagree with me, you can say so. Dave wasn't at the meeting. Mr. Weidman and I both had
Reservations,
reservations about the costs,
especially the concession stand.
about the concession stand. We both had reservations, but now Mr. Lukey's gonna work with this other group to see if we can get that done at a more efficient price.
So the way I have it listed out here, I got it broken down. Point of beginnings, when they were here, they said, well, why don't you combine press box, concession stand, bathrooms, bleachers, all into one thing? There's challenges with either way, but they thought might be an option. So, yeah, we gotta move fast to get it done by summer, but we gotta move wisely. So that's why I wanna have a committee meeting next week, get the companies here, and we're have to meet a few times on this.
One thing that I think would help, and I just, I sat with the, I go to the Booster Club meetings and stuff. So the Booster Club right now is moving forward in making they have a pretty thought out plan on how to go reach out to individuals and organizations to help with the concession stand. And I think as we're finding with these big investments, if the school board can commit to a certain amount of an investment, that it's actually going to happen, people in the community are far more willing to get involved, depending on how we do it, to get recognized. And so I do think that that will factor in the two. I mean, so it'll show a couple things, right? Some money will help the budget in that regard, and it shows community involvement. And there's already talking about how would we represent that, you know? Maybe if we were to go forward with a concession stand, you know, maybe some of the people, past athletes, you know, I hope that's okay for me to say, like the
That might be a
cross-country team. is
I
looking
think
to-
anyone that's.
That could be a
been in a
Rayburg project.
I think anyone that's been in a
grant.
football game or a track meet or any kind of event out there, that you could use a bathroom with running water and going into an outhouse.
Yeah, I
Porta
mean,
potty,
I think that, yeah.
you know, and trying to see what the heck you're doing on a Friday night at 8 o'clock. I mean, I'm sorry to say this, but I think we're way behind the times. I mean, you go to some schools and they have, I mean, I think
Well, it is,
it's-
I mean, if you say that, let's talk about it, right? This is 2021.
Well,
If we bring someone with a wheelchair to one of our sporting events, or an 80-year-old parent, and I got two of them, yeah, well, first of all, those bleachers gotta go. We've known that for a long time.
They have failed
But to get
inspection
into a
3
restroom,
times.
well, that's what I'm saying.
I mean, and you go to
Can you
any
imagine
places that have been built recently,
a place with a light
This
switch
is
you
not
turn on and you
unreasonable.
go in and use the bathroom.
for a public facility, a public room, you know, so that's why I think, now, the other thing I would offer for, in the further execution, that this team and the staff have proven, they can say no. The reason why the budget is healthy is because Kyle and all the staff members have very healthy discussions about what they want, what they can afford, and what they're gonna get. And so that will continue. So that's why I think it's something we should move forward on. If we're renovating some stuff, we're bringing a new school, but we don't have a bathroom out there for our families.
And I think the fact that, you know, we have that large figure at concession stand, but you're right about the
I
bathrooms.
think it's more than a concession, I mean,
No,
if you're thinking of the concession.
that's why I labeled it, but that's not.
I mean, if you're thinking
Right.
of the concession stand that it is now, that little hut
Yeah.
with the floating thing,
No.
I mean, I'm envisioning like, you know, a couple of bathrooms, like you talked about an athletic training room.
Yeah, it's a little more tacky.
We're not talking like
Okay, my computer stops.
a place to sell it.
That's all right.
I think, yeah, you're right with facilities, for
Well, it's
such
with
a
the bathrooms.
distance from our main facility, that,
This is the
you know,
budget part, you need.
it's something that probably needs. So, Andy, what we need to do is we need to separate concession stand with bathroom facilities, because we're gonna have to run water out there, we're gonna have to run sewer out there, and everything else. So, you know, probably if we can itemize this out, instead of just putting it all under concession stand, and we put it in facilities, and bringing the sewer and the water out there, maybe the picture might become clear.
Well-
Don't call it a concession stand, call it a public facility or something.
Well, it depends how she ends up looking at it, but that's what I call it in my mind, because that's the way we're going. But the other part is, like, if we have 2 new wells, if you're gonna run water out there, you wanna do that before you put any pavement down or a playground down. You don't wanna put that in later. And it may not be going to sewer, it may be a septic holding tank might be the cheaper option. So we'll look at the options and come up with it. A little bit more about fundraising. I met with Mr. Horvat already, and he's going to look at his track alumni, because within the track portion of the project, there are options that you can go with. And, okay, say we have some donors and donations, then we can enhance the project. So I give you a high number here, because I put down the number for the track. Well, I told you, I got a bid for $384. So I got a bid that's $65,000 less than that number. But I put a cushion in there because I don't want to get jammed later, because that's where a person gets in trouble or a district gets in trouble. I'm not going to get our district in trouble financially, so I'm going to keep working on it. So, but you can't count on donors coming through, but anything they can come can assist it. Additionally, items 1 through 9, I'm not going to tell you which 2, but I've been in contact with a grant firm about writing grants internally to our people, write them, and may possibly help bring those costs down through grant money. But you can't count on grant money because, you know, Dave Phillips wrote a robotics grant for $50,000, and it was due, I can't remember what day it was due, like January 11th. So we got it in. Well, today we got an email saying, hey, there's 3 areas that they didn't like our answers. We got till noon on Monday, so tomorrow him and I are getting together to work on that. And so that's a robotics grant. It has nothing to do with this, but that's just a project we got going on. So I never count on grant money or fundraising money when it comes to this, because you gotta stand on your own 2 feet. That's gravy, that's extra, that'll help our budget, and I'm sure that the way the folks have come through us in the past, someone's gonna donate some money towards some of these projects, and we will get some grant money for some of these items, because I've already been in contact with a couple foundations, and they said, yeah, those are good projects to apply for. Well, they don't tell you it's good if you don't, but you can't count on it until it happens, so.
Keith, you got cut off, did you?
Well,
No,
I'm
I
sorry.
I think, I think all these 10 through 13 are, I mean, they were necessary. I mean, when I was going to school, I mean, we haven't had, I mean,
Maybe we can wait another 50 years.
well, I'm just saying, I mean, come on, we're in 2021, we don't have a bathroom at a football game or a track meet. I mean, we have porta potties, like, we don't have a place to,
Well, okay.
Some of this is optics, some of this is optics.
Right.
We all know what's needed out there, we've all been out there, we know what's happening. But when you say $400,000 for a concession stand,
right, but
people are thinking a little box where they serve hot dogs.
Or they could come on a trailer, right, and just roll it up from the side.
Yeah,
then I say we
yeah.
call it something other
Wouldn't
than.
it be better if we just roll all those into one package of saying athletic field improvements not to exceed $1.25 million?
Can
Whatever,
I suggest you call it a pavilion?
pavilion.
That's a
Thank
good
you,
idea.
Mrs.
That's a
Something
good word.
a little bit more grand.
Right, I mean, it's a bathroom, it's a concession stand.
No, it's a pavilion.
I'm just
Okay,
saying, it's.
and now
one of
Yeah,
those
I
things
hear
which
you,
is a
it's gotta
pavilion.
be something
Well, like
that,
when you, I mean, it's a good point, because when you have those cookouts, once we get back to healthier gatherings, we have all those gatherings where you're eating out there with your lunch and your kids, well, guess what, there's gonna be a nicer bathroom within the area. You don't have all these parents traipsing into your school.
And you
So,
won't have a handicap.
Now, I think as far as
Handicapped
optics, I think if we
accessible, so
break
it brings
down
us
what it
down to the
is,
football game.
let's accurately report what these things are, and that's what we've done to the first building, is, so I think, and Jerry kind of mentioned it, let's bring this together and start breaking out the scope as we can better clarify what it's being paid for, because then they'll realize they're not replacing that shack over there.
I lost track, Carl. Do we have a motion?
Yes, we had a motion and a second.
And what is it? You want to repeat it?
Motion to approve projects 10 through 13 with estimated amounts through the Building and Grounds Committee and report back to board with contingencies as needed.
Questions or discussion?
I'd only change the name concession stand.
Pavilion.
Well, I can, yeah.
Well, and that's
Okay.
just, yeah, that's.
And then let me tell you about bathrooms. The number of toilets you have is dependent upon how many bleachers you have. So if you have seating for 290 people, you need to have 8 stools, toilets. If you go up to 320, you gotta add 2 more. So your size of your bleacher, or you gotta have a facility close by, but our elementary locker rooms, the closest bathrooms, are 600 and some odd feet, they're over the limit, so it doesn't count. But you can build a smaller facility, and then you still, but on game day, you still gotta have a couple of porta potties, so you got the same number of facilities. But if you had 4 bathrooms there, 4 individual bathrooms, or toilets, and one would be ADA compliant, and then you put a number of porta potties, no one's gonna go to the porta potty, there's 4 flush toilets
Wait in line
available.
at the flush toilet.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying we can cut back on the cost if we are wise about it. And we've gotten by with 2
Porta
porta potties, so 4 regular bathrooms are gonna be way better. But you gotta be up to code when you have a crowd there.
Madam Chairman, I only say, you're only going down this road once. You're not gonna do this again for a gazillion years. Do it right, don't skimp on it, you know?
I would echo from the community advisory group for the building, those comments were echoed, and it was a challenge and a fight that everyone said, if we're going to make an investment anywhere, it should be right and enduring. And that's where I think this project would be more enduring, and doing it right, and I'm willing to have those discussions with people that have other views, I think.
Just go back and correct it, just go back and correct it's gonna be more expensive.
Well, I think we all agree.
I agree.
Okay, so I'm going to call the question, and all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. More information to come on that. Is this ball field insertion, is that something you want to talk about now?
Yes, I would like to talk about that now too, because this kind of building and grounds too.
It falls under building and grounds, I guess.
Yeah, well, it's kind of 10-year maintenance too, because we purchased the right to use the baseball and softball diamond from the town park. Hutchinson has been over there, and to get the drainage off the left field, he had a couple options. One was like 16,000, and another one was 32,000. And I went over and met with Brooke Tank, Hutchinson, and Mark Hain. And I said, well, how can we get this solved? And I said, Mark, is it possible that school and you and the town could go 50-50 on this? And Mark says, well, I don't know my budget. So he couldn't commit to it. And there's other projects over there that we would benefit from, but we don't own the facility. And I know, Jerry, you don't like the fact that they own it and it's all double taxes. I understand all that. But at the end of the day, we got to provide a place for our kids to play baseball and softball. Otherwise, we got to bus them someplace, and that causes a whole other headache for us because we don't have enough bus drivers, and it's too much time on the road, and they can just walk over here and play. So my recommendation is that we set an annual amount for a given number of years that go for improvements over there, but the town of Sevastopol would also have to contribute at least an equal amount to the projects. And then they have skin in the game, we got skin in the game, and we work on it jointly because I'd have the projects approved by our athletic committee in conjunction with the town of Sevastopol Park Committee. And then they could schedule it out and we could be on a system. Because otherwise we'll never get anything done over there. We've fought with them, they fought with us, we go back and forth all the time, and we got to be more collegial in this and get along with them.
Why don't we just ask them to give us the land, we'll take it over and we'll make it open for
I don't
anybody.
think-
Well, so
As a
do
Sevastopol
that
ID.
right after you rewrite all the policies. But before that happens, you know, this board approved that, that athletic committee and that memo, with that memo of understanding.
$3,000.
There's good intent moving forward. And I think when he delivered that check, and I think if you read through it, his intent was to come here because there is some growing and mending of a relationship. And certainly we should, right? This year about unity and all that good stuff, that field right there is right next door to us, and it's the town of Sevastopol. So clearly it is the right thing for us to do. And I think they're working with us. And I think Mark Hain and Brooke are doing a great job. You know, the Booster Club, I think it was written up here, the Booster Club and the Mighty Pioneer Group has donated money to repair some of the dugouts. So, you know, that's good things that are coming out of that. So I do think there's other things that are coming, you know, maybe in whoever's got a history, which maybe I don't, we're gonna work through that.
We don't go through this every year, why don't we just have a long-term lease on it?
Well,
They won't give us a lease because other folks use the diamonds as well. The Pony League, the Institute Cubs, the Legion Ball team. So it wouldn't be exclusive. We couldn't lease the diamond and say, hey, that's our diamond, because all the other groups use it as well.
Well, is this not true? In our agreement with the town, that's kind of what we're going, we didn't use the word lease, right? But we have signed, this board approved a signature of a document, and the town board signed it and approved it, which is committing to work together for years. So it's not lease per se in your legal terms, but we have formally committed to work together, and they've made the school a priority for ball games, and we've defined exactly what they're gonna do, because there's been some confusion in the past of who did what. So, I mean, short of being a lease, there is some long-term commitment that is developing, and I think this budget thing is the next term, the financial planning, to say, hey, town and us, we're serious about this, we're gonna commit some dollars to it, but you gotta get involved. So I think that would be a...
Well, I think that's fine, and I'm all for unity and kumbaya, but I want to see a business plan out of the town. We'll give money, but I want to see, if we're going to do a body of work over there, I want to see a plan. I want our athletic committee to see a plan with specifications that we approve before those dollars go forward.
And that's why I have the third paragraph there about our athletic committee jointly with the town of Sevastopol prioritize and schedule the projects, because until they're actually scheduled and going, it doesn't do any good, right?
Well, I agree with that fully. That was not implied not to be the case, yeah.
The biggest hurdle is that we have to get the town off the mindset that we have big pockets and that they can be, you know, they need, you know, have this bundle of money that they can put into.
That's
So
why.
the cooperative idea is the way to go and to work into a new relationship. You know, we're not the big pot of money that they keep looking for all the time. And you're right, Lisa, I mean, they have to come up with a concrete plan for what they're gonna do instead of just coming to us and saying, well, you should pay for that.
This is what we're going to do, and then they get fly-by-night to do it. We want to know, what are the specifications, who's going to do the
Well,
work? And then that's what our committee approves.
Some legwork to provide some confidence to your words. That's what I think the athletic committee will help encourage. So between, besides Mark and Brooke, our AD, Keith and I are part of that, and when we've had meetings, you know, he's been showing up, I show up, we have good discussion, you know how that goes, when he talks too much and I don't talk enough. So, I mean, there is that group that is meeting and working, that I will monitor this, right? I mean, it's not a blank check for 5 years, it's project by project, things will be coming in, and slowly but surely, so we have our challenge, Dick and Lisa, we need to convince you guys that it's actually going to work. And I think that's a good challenge.
So do we have, are there projects in mind? Is there a dollar amount in mind?
The projects are numerous over there.
Yeah, there's a list,
Yeah.
So
there's a
my
long
question is, how
list.
do we go about saying, committing to a dollar amount? Do we know what kind of dollar amount we want to commit to?
What you have to do is identify the project, get a figure, and then we work out a cooperative agreement on funding it.
One thing I may suggest from there's a list of projects. It's a long list of good ideas. Just like anybody's list, many won't be funded for a while, you know. But, so we can get a report on that from Brooke and Mark, I think. I believe, right, we've had a list.
We have a list, I mean.
And then one thing I think was being discussed is if we were willing to commit a budget, that shows the commitment, right? So put a number out there. Now, when you commit that budget, doesn't mean it all gets spent, but it does show our newly developed partnership that we are putting money on the table. And then Brooke, who is our biggest voice in this communication, can actually say, yes, I have budget approved. And so then Mark can go back to his leadership and say, here's some budget we can look at, and we already have the documentation that was signed here, so we'll see. I mean,
So they don't have to come through and show us their budget.
They have to, well, in my proposal, they've got to match us what we put in, they got to at least match that. Right.
I don't even want to ask this question, but if I'm the Door County Pony League and use that field, do I pay them the same as the school?
They don't pay.
Pony League and,
It's free?
Pony League plays for
Pony
free,
League.
and so does the.
Those are all
Legion.
Door County, those are all Sevastopol people.
Jerry, so if it's relative, right? So when we started putting and asking to get police officers in our schools,
Yeah.
which by the way, I fully support, because the whole concept of that interaction is great. That's tax dollars. Why does the school pay for some of the police officers? And I thought that.
Added cost to the county.
So here's the
Well,
deal.
we are providing money to that, right? So I think the police chief, chief of police, she had a very good explanation. It is the different pots of money and we're working together.
That's not my issue. My issue is that they're asking us to have to pay to use it. Are they asking everybody else to pay to use it?
Here, I got an idea. Why don't we build a ball field in the back 40 here in the woods and see how much money that costs us to do?
Yeah.
No,
No,
seriously.
Jerry, here's
In
what.
all reality, we need, I mean,
The town park does not need to meet WIAA rules, right? So a town park, you're a liability guy. And we talked about this with the town. So they do not need to meet WIAA rules to have games and kids. So if someone goes to a town park and gets hurt, you know, there's already an understanding on a park, you play at your own risk. There's no real liability on the town. If we're hosting WIA sanctioned schools and someone breaks a leg because we do not have our equipment and our situation in place, that's why it's a problem. Because one of the discussions is if they're not going to work with us on it, that's an option. Because under the DPI and school, we have to provide this. So very quickly we did start looking at other options, and we have this back here. So then you start running costs about maintaining and putting our own field in. So then very quickly the financial side regardless of the unity comment, the financial side says this really is a good idea for us, financially. So the deep pockets thing, we can get rid of that by doing a cost trade. Right, right? Let's do a cost analysis of what we pay to that field versus building our own and maintaining it. And very quickly, it's a good investment to be over here.
My issue is I just think they should be just going out of their way to help the school. We're neighbors, we're the same taxpayers. I don't understand this friction on their part. I remember one time, we asked how much everybody else paid, and they said, we can't tell you that. It's confidential information, which it isn't, because that's.
Well, the Institute clubs pay to play there, the Pony League and the Legion do not.
I guess when this all started when I came on the board, and it just rubbed me the wrong way that they weren't saying, what can we do to help you? You're our school, you're our only school, and we want to make sure that our kids get a good deal. Not like, you don't live in our district, so, our town, so. I just find that really.
So I don't disagree with that, sir, but how do we move forward? Right? So we have a problem and a solution, we need to do something. So we can sit here and reminisce how I don't like him and this doesn't work, and 3 weeks ago he pissed me off, but we're a school and we need to move forward.
You know what I recommend?
What's that?
Take the chairman of this board, sit down with the chairman of the town board in a locked room, and you work out and negotiate out a level playing field from which the rest of the negotiations come from.
Well, if I may, that's what we did, but we started from the bottom instead of the top.
That's the problem.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm not.
That was a
it's
step
matter
in
of
the right
opinion,
direction though,
It's
from
a matter
where
of
we
opinion.
had been.
But we got more important things to do, so
Cool.
I'm sorry for.
No, I don't disagree with what you're saying, but I'm looking for options to keep things going and for kids with baseball this summer, because.
Plan a safe, conducive WIA field. I mean, I think we could do more, maybe host a game, and have something that was.
To Jerry's point, the town chairman should be a part of that athletic committee that meets. Because when we negotiate with someone, if I negotiate with someone, I want the decision makers at the table. I don't want Uncle Jerry who's gonna go back to the decision maker. We should ask that the town chairman be at that table, because he has.
At the meetings, Dave and I and Brooke were at the meetings with the town, and it was
Mark and then,
Mark Hain and
Mark
Dan
and Dan,
Werfel.
Dan was there.
Dan
Dan was
was
there, and-
There's progress, you're not seeing it, but
Right.
just let it go a little bit. I mean,
And I apologize again.
No.
This is a small bananas compared to the whole operation issues we have before us, and I apologize for taking.
those are, we all, these
I
are,
think it's good
debates are
discussion, I
good.
just.
Over a
so-
baseball field.
So what are we suggesting to come up with a dollar amount, that maybe you bring a list of those projects back, prioritized over a certain number of years, and then we can perhaps establish a dollar amount that the school district might want to contribute?
I mean, our school put together a maintenance plan, and we and even with the CAT committee, or community,
CFAC.
we had a dream list, this is like a dream, this is what is needed, this is, and, do we have to build, the Field of Dreams right away? I mean, can we do things that are safety things first and come back with some idea?
I agree with Lisa, I think we need some numbers.
So we're not gonna take any action on this. You heard what the board would like to see for a future meeting, hopefully next meeting.
The athletic committee is gonna try and get together with the town and come up with a 10-year maintenance plan.
Yes. Okay, good. Any other discussion on that? Nope. Then we'll move to the annual anticipated open enrollment activity report.
Carl distributed these tonight. In January, we're going to set our spaces for the upcoming school year based on grade level and special education.
So we're looking for approval of this.
Approval of the capacity for the 21-22 school year as listed in the third column. So, multi-category, EC2 is 19, and then down, and you'll see that some of our areas were already over capacity, and you we can't turn down a residential student, and once someone open enrolls here, they stay the duration. So in some slots, like early childhood, second grade, sixth and middle school, special education, fourth grade, next year's fourth grade, those are already at capacity. So those grade levels, if someone applied, we would deny their open enrollment because there's not space. But where there's space, we would accept them based on these numbers. It's exactly the same number of slots as last year. I know there's been some talk around the state of what you're going to do with open enrollment, especially if you're near like a Green Bay that hasn't been going to school. But we're going to stay with what our capacity is.
Well, and a caveat to what Mr. Lutke just said, if you have two family members applying for open enrollment, and one child there's room in and the other child there's not, they both come.
We don't split families.
We don't split families. If you got one kid coming into fourth grade and one coming into fifth grade's got room, fourth grade doesn't, but they both come, so that increases numbers in both classes. We don't split families. One comes, they all come. And that's part of our policies that we adopt.
But we wouldn't have to approve.
We don't have to.
Open enrollment request.
Yes, we do. If we have room and they want to, we have to approve them. Otherwise, they can go back to DPI and say, why did you not approve me?
Well, we would say because we're not splitting your family.
But if we have room for one, our policy
If you
says.
have room for the fifth grader, you gotta take them.
You gotta
can't
take
say, no, you got a fourth grade brother, so you can't come. You have to accept them, but we don't want to split families.
In our policy, we changed our policy, said that we do not split families.
Isn't there an exception for special education needs requirements?
You can only turn them down if you don't have a program to support their needs, correct?
Right, or like if we didn't have 4K and their home district had, or say we had 4K and their district did not have 4K, they couldn't open enroll in our 4K because their home district didn't have the 4K program.
Unless they wanted to pay tuition.
Right.
And we've had that situation with Gibraltar. Gibraltar does not have 4K. We do, if they want to come here open enroll, they have to pay tuition.
But special needs students, we can.
You can deny based on your programming, right?
Right.
Did you have the motion, Sue?
Yes, I would move to approve the space availability for open enrollment for 2020, 2021, and 2021, 22 as presented.
Second?
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Internet availability within the school district and county. We touched on this a little bit with Mr. Kitchens. There are families signing up now for Starlink. Is anybody using Starlink? It's a satellite.
No, it's a beta. It's in the beta phase.
But there are a lot of people using it.
They're in the testing.
Someone told me today they had to pay $579 for the equipment, but then the service is $80 a month. And the people that are using it
Way
are
better
having.
download speeds than broadband.
But it's also going to depend upon data limits. Because if you go with Hughes satellite right now, they have a 50 gigabyte limit, and it's about,
One good movie.
yeah. I mean,
This is unlimited. I just talked to a guy
Starlink is
before I came in
unlimited?
here. He just got it. I was talking to him at my daughter's basketball game, and it's unlimited. He didn't tell me installation costs, maybe it's the same person, but it's $80 a month, and it's way better numbers, and it is unlimited. Now, yeah, how well it does, we'll find out, but yeah, it's,
That's a side note.
Because the traditional problem with satellite is not the downlink, it's the uplink.
this particular one is like 12 meg.
Huh?
12 meg up the side. So it's better than I got right now at broadband and mine, on North County Broadband, with a tower.
So the school districts in Sevastopol, town of Sevastopol, town of Jackson, nobody's gonna solve this on their own.
Right.
It seems like there should be a push, as you said, at the county to bring
Yes.
people to the table, representatives from the schools, from the northern resort areas. But how do you go about, there are counties that have internet coalitions that
There's
are working.
resistance in the town building.
That's another discussion like we just had. Right.
paid employees in the county building resist this.
Well, could we as a school board send a letter to the county? Just expressing our interest in wanting,
And give them
we
the
don't
number?
want to be the conduit, I mean, because we have enough on our plate in terms of, you know, bringing the parties together to have a conversation. But I think it would behoove us as a school board, because we're so concerned about this issue, at least to send a letter to the county exec saying this issue has come before the Sevastopol School Board numerous times. We would encourage, whatever the word is we want to use.
I think a better thing would be to invite the county administrator out here to talk to us about the county's plans for providing Wi-Fi throughout the county.
Okay.
Well, that's
Well-
interesting.
Well, I think both.
Yeah.
I think if there are gonna be letters, I think I think the school district, I think Gibraltar, it needs to be Gibraltar, Sevastopol, and maybe Southern York.
Well, could we ask Kyle, like when you meet with the superintendents, ask them if there's any interest to do that?
Sure.
And send a combined letter. And
Send-
what prevents us from inviting him to our?
Yeah, send a letter and then invite him to come.
Right, I mean, the letters are that, thank you very much, and that they can all just send back a nice, thank you very much for your concern, we are certainly in agreement with you, and da-da-da, as opposed to, tell us what your plans are.
Well, I think we should do both.
Yeah.
It'll be fine, yeah, I'm not,
Yeah.
I just don't do the letter.
I agree. I just think we have to, we keep talking about this, and it makes sense for us to.
So is it the county administrator or the county board chairman?
You could decide for both of them.
Invite both of them to come here?
Yeah, I think so.
Sure.
Why not?
Okay.
Why, it wouldn't hurt.
Yeah.
Something good might come out of it.
And I guess, you know, I do know that Mrs. Vogel is really big on this, but, you know, she comes on the walls too. I really don't understand what's going on right now, because there is enough, if you take all the towns now who have gotten out of the county tower policy and are on their own, if you take those two representatives from all those towns, that's a majority now of the county board. And I don't know what's holding them back from chucking the tower policy and then forcing them to move it.
Or we should have them in front of us.
Let's invite them.
It's a invite.
Yeah.
It's our prerogative.
Now's the time because we're in the virus situation and let's strike while the iron's hot.
Who's your county board supervisor from Sevastopol?
Vogel and Linda,
Linda Wade?
no, she's my side of the
Yeah.
town. This side of the town is,
Oh, on what drive?
Is that Buzz? Is that his name?
Burley.
Biz?
no, I think you're,
Well,
Biz is still
and
on.
who is it? Who is it?
This is
Elizabeth
very-
Goddard.
I don't know.
Okay, so I'm gonna call Jeannie Vogel and Elizabeth Goddard because they are two county board representatives. And I'm gonna ask them to collaborate and get the county board chairman and the county administrator here for a meeting in the near future so that we can discuss and pose some questions to them. Does that sound?
Yes.
That sounds like a plan.
actually, to me, the biggest thing would be to have Sevastopol School District and the Southern Berks School District all combined with us to one big meeting with all those entities. Oh, yeah, okay.
I'll talk to these two ladies.
Yeah.
Two
Jeannie
representatives.
will tell you what she thinks is the best way to do it.
Good. Year-round schooling.
She was on her. She's back.
How do we table that?
Let's table that. I have a lot of questions. What's that discussion about? Teachers are interested in that.
Well, yeah, so, I'm just curious, we're not gonna talk about it, is that what the?
I think we've, I would say, I would vote Gary and suggest that we table it.
I'll take responsibility.
Oh.
I just casually said one night as we're walking out, you know, I'm not saying I'm in favor of it or against it, but we really need to become more educated in what it means to go to a year-round calendar. Because in communities that have done it, there's great resistance the first year, and usually the stereotype is the second year, they say, this is great. Now, you know, because theoretically, our calendar is still based on the 1890 agrarian world that the country was in, where kids had to get out here in May to help work on the fields and the farms and all that stuff.
I think it's a topic worthy of discussion, but I think we have some other more pressing issues on our plate right
We've got
now.
some meatier items
That'll be a
even
good
tonight.
discussion.
It was just put on for us to begin educating ourselves on it.
Move it forward to another time. We'll look for a motion to accept the bus driver's retirement.
I move to approve the retirement for Gerald Nelson, bus driver, with a thank you and sense of appreciation for his contribution to the district.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
The week of February 8th is bus driver appreciation week.
Then the equity committee has met a few times, and I guess we thought it would be beneficial to survey our students rather than trying to bring individual students in to get their opinions, to get the opinion of a larger body of students. Is that how you would look at it, Aaron?
Yeah, to come up with an analogy, I think a big part of our discussions have been, when you take a look at how the school seems to be handling equity and how, whether there's inequity that exists. I think kind of using an iceberg, you look at the top of the iceberg is relatively flat. I don't think we have a lot of issues. There aren't things that we've talked about as administrators that are coming our way on a regular basis. So that top part is relatively flat. But what we want to try and find out is what's under the surface, and is there something there that we need to address. And we think that by doing a survey with the students, we have a better chance at getting at some of that information that can help direct what we need to focus on with the equity committee, rather than just looking at that surface.
The executive director of the National School Board Association spoke at the convention this morning, Anna Maria Chavez, and one thing that she highlighted was the need for us to do a better job of engaging students in the decision-making process, in the ongoing programming process. But we don't do enough to hear from our students. They're what we're all about, and we need to do more to ensure that we are working with them to get their involvement in all of the things we're doing.
So the survey will be a first step to that. We
Yes.
were using school perceptions who we're familiar with. I emailed you some information on it. I think I thought the maximum, the girls' basketball team lost by 2, everybody.
I would move to approve the administration of a survey for the purposes of gathering equity information from students.
Second.
Point of reference, I think I figured it out that even if, when we had the data downloaded, everything, the maximum cost is about $3,000.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I missed it. What age group are we encompassing for this?
When we had talked, we were mainly talking about the older kids, just because the younger kids aren't going to be able to do the survey and give us effective information.
Define older kids.
Probably high school.
Okay, yeah, just curious. Yeah.
Kind of what we had talked about.
No, I thought you got it.
And again, it's more to get an idea of how those kids are perceiving things. It's a senior or a junior who takes the survey. Are we going to have enough time to really address that issue for them before they leave? Maybe not, but it gives us an idea of how are they feeling, how long have they been feeling that, where did that stuff start, and give us a place to go back to work on.
Do you have a timeline on this survey?
Not specifically. I think, we'd like to do it before the end of the year is kind of our target, but again, because that top part of that iceberg I was describing isn't something that's really standing out to us, we feel like we've got some time to try and address this issue in the right way, as opposed to there being a pressing need that really needs to be addressed now. And so we want to make
If
sure.
one of those kids say their dad talks too much, we should throw that one out.
We'll know who the dad is.
You don't think that, you know, with the COVID situation, that at this time, you know, taking a survey might affect its accuracy, or?
We, if I,
I mean, you know.
It's
we've
certainly
got-
possible. But again, our thing is, I think our committee feels like our wheels would continue spinning if all we're looking at is above the water line. You know,
we talked about this before when we first looked at surveys, is I think if it matters to your comment, I think what's important is what comes out of that survey doesn't turn into direction, right? It's an evaluation, it's thinking through and discovering what that means. Because I think when you're surveying kids, if they're having a bad day, you know, you're gonna have to filter through some of that. But I think what he's saying is, let's find out what's out there, and then, because, you know, anytime you do a survey, you're gonna get some mixed information, and the challenge actually then is to turn that into credible things that an organization can act on. So we've had that discussion in the past, and I think it relates to your comment, because those are good comments. But
and this particular topic is something that School Perceptions has done a lot of surveying on with other districts, so it's not starting from scratch. They've got some questions to be working with.
There may be some longitudinal data or data already available through the YRBS survey, the Youth Risk Behavior Assessment Survey, which our students take on a semi-regular basis every 2 years typically, so you can go back quite a few years. And there is some equity questions in that already. So if there's a concern about just having one snapshot, that might give you some more
is there,
information.
maybe
And you already-
to your briefing, and this is, and I resource staff busy, crazy, but when you start doing that, is that cultivating from the, you know, from the school board level, there's a certain thing, you know, support funding for surveys, but is there like training down the road that would a staff member to better cultivate that understanding and get it to it? Now, that's, you know, we're talking resources, staff and people, but, and then to cultivate that into an admin team, there where someone dissects it, and then on an ongoing basis, you start to uncover this stuff under the iceberg. You know, did they go into some of that?
Yes.
To help an ongoing thing, you know?
There are
It's not
training
it's not
modules.
we're gonna fix it in 6 months. It's
No,
Well, it's a cultural
long-term-
thing, right? No, it would be a cultural thing.
It's a long haul kind of thing. And the University of Wisconsin at Madison is coming out probably next month with modules of learning about equity for school board members, online modules that can be addressed. And there are lots of people getting into providing resources now, whether it be CISA or DPI or WASB. So yes, to answer your question.
It's an important topic, and I think it was demonstrated tonight that in one area, Sevastopol is doing a really good job with that, with the Hispanic students and meeting their needs. We have an inequity among our students just in general of how they're being educated. Some have great internet access and can manage at home, and some not. That's another, above anything else right now, that's an area that
Yes.
needs fixing. I don't know how, but fixing. Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Then we have the first reading of some policies. So if you want to go around the table, maybe start down there with Dick and make a motion and second. And if somebody has a question about a policy, comments, stop us and we'll take those questions and comments. You want to start, Dick, with policy 5111?
Move to approve the first reading of the eligibility of resident, non-resident students.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Move to approve the first reading of policy 5200, attendance.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Move to approve the first reading of policy 5460, graduation requirements.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Move to approve first reading of policy 5512, use of tobacco by students.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Move to approve the first reading of policy 5630.01, use of seclusion and physical restraint of students.
Second.
Questions or discussion?
Is this premature to be, because I think this is all being redone by the feds right now, that the whole issue of seclusion, passing laws, that states have 3 years to get rid of all the seclusion and physical restraint policies and all that stuff.
Right now, every year annually, we give a report on how many
Yeah.
seclusions and.
I'm saying instead of doing a new policy in another year or so, you're going to change the whole policy again.
Actually, they just updated seclusion and restraint.
I know, but this is just coming out of the feds right now. They're going to ban it across the United States. Okay.
In the head of the policy
Go ahead, seconded. Move.
group, this covers the gap between now and
Okay.
when it's changed. Is there a second to that?
Yes, they already have one.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Move to approve the first reading of policy 6116, employee compensation.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Move to approve first reading of policy 7230, gifts, grants, and bequests.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Move to approve first reading of policy 7434, use of tobacco on school premises.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Move to approve the first reading of 7455, accounting system for fixed assets.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Move to approve first reading of policy 7540.01, technology privacy.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Motion to approve first reading of policy 8390, animals on district property.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Move to approve the first reading of policy 8395, student mental health services.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Move to approve first reading of policy 8710, copy of insurance.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Do I have maybe this was changed on the agenda. If we go back to where policy 6116 is, employee compensation, after that, I have May 2020 time and effort reporting.
So do I.
So do I.
That's the name of the whole policy, I think.
I think we missed that particular policy.
Or is that part of 6116? Mr. Carl, would you know?
Or was that, well,
I think that's part of that policy.
It's part of that,
it's
I
part
have
of
it as part of that
6116?
policy.
Okay, got it. Good, thank you.
They just read the first.
Then we've got, item G, we've got a policy to delete. Is there a motion on that?
I'll make a motion to that, please. Policy
Here, go ahead.
6145, borrowing. Delete the sucker.
Is there a second? Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Second.
motion carried. Then we have three new
was a
policies, or
second.
we have some new policies. If someone would start with 6147.
Move to approve the first reading of new policy 6147, debt management.
Second. Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Move to approve the first reading of policy 744, small unmanned aircraft systems.
Second. Questions or discussion?
I've read that. How you gonna stop, how are you gonna stop the neighbor from running his thing over? You gonna shoot it down or something?
We're running our fault. We're running our fault.
I thought there was a law
I know
about
there's a big
drones.
pressing issue in the field of education.
I
these
just
days.
wanted you to read that policy.
Especially in institute, it's running around.
No, I think of that too, if I see one over the house, what do you do?
Well, as the superintendent now, you gotta get him a policy, the superintendent may carry a sidearm in
Sidearm
order
to
to
take
shoot
it
down
out.
unmanned aircraft over school property.
It'll be at a football game when they'll
Was
be.
there a second to that?
Right, I just get the shotgun out and that's it.
Carol, was there a second to that one?
Yeah, you did.
Oh, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Move to approve first reading of policy 8420.01 coronavirus disease COVID-19, March 2020 epidemic. Whew, that's a lot.
Is there a second?
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Motion to approve new policy 8450.01, personal protective equipment during a pandemic and epidemic events.
Second.
Questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. That concludes our regular business for the evening. I'll look for a motion to convene to executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote. Dick?
Aye.
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 Motion carried at 9:14 PM. Thank you, everyone. All right, first we will look for a motion on the title consultant.
I would move to approve the Title I consultant as presented.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Then we'll look for a motion on the superintendent. On the recognition.
I make a motion to approve the superintendent compensation as discussed.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. I should have asked, does that include the salary? Are we doing the salary?
Yeah, it's all-
Okay, so
that's
we're done
all.
with that. Then we're looking for a motion on the business manager.
So moved.
Cindy, you want to read whatever motion you have?
Oh, yeah. I would make a motion for the salary package for the business. That's all over.
I need a second.
Second.
Let you do it, David.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Our next regular school board meeting is February.
No, you got the assistant soccer
Oh,
coach.
the soccer,
And the
I'm
musical
sorry.
And the musical director.
Motion for the assistant soccer coach.
I make a motion to approve Lexi Russ as the high school varsity girls assistant soccer coach.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Musical director.
Motion to approve the musical director.
Colin Wolford. Colin Wolford.
Colin Wolf.
Or we make the motion.
Oh, I make a motion to approve Colin Welford as the musical director.
Is there a second?
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Regular school board meeting, February 18th. Mr. Lutke will contact the members for our property buildings and security meeting.
Are you guys available next Wednesday? The 27th?
I heard what you said, let's make her happen.
It'd be in the evening,
Dick, are you good?
because that's why I can have the companies come out. Like 6 or 7 o'clock, is that right?
And who would be attending?
I would try and get a representative from Brettler and from Hutchinson
Oh.
and Point of Beginnings.
That's Wednesday, January 27th, you're asking?
Yeah, at 6 or 7 o'clock at night, depending on what I can arrange with those folks. I'd have one come in and then I'd have them present for a half hour and then have the other one show up.
I can't support that, Dick, if you can.
Okay,
I'm good.
for you?
That
I'll
work
make
for
it.
you?
Dick, that
Yes,
work for you?
and they're gonna present,
They're gonna present their idea of their proposal of what they would do out there, concept, and then their
strictly just the football field.
the football field, and the whole
whole package.
concept out there, everything we
Correct.
talked about. Yep, I already worked with these companies, and they have a proposal, so we can review that with them, what it all includes. Yep,
I think it's gonna be that whole
Equity Committee
section.
is meeting on January 27th at 3 o'clock.
Who is?
The Equity Committee,
Communications.
Equity.
exactly.
Communications is February 8th
Okay.
at 3 o'clock.
Athletics.
Athletics is, you'll have to be
We're
determined.
gonna get something
Oh, yeah.
before our next meeting, so we can
Okay,
present.
but I want to make sure it's on there, so, yep.
And I skipped past meet and confer.
We should pick a time for meet and confer, because it's about that time of year. And who was on the last
Whose turn?
one?
Dick and I did last time.
Yep.
Well,
If I'm up, I
go
can-
into February.
Sure.
It's been a year since I've done it. Jane and I did.
Yeah.
Give them till February 10th to come up with whatever they want to talk about.
February 10th is parent-teacher conferences, that would work
Oh.
for them.
3rd or 17th.
I do go with the 3rd, because the 17th is last Wednesday.
February
It
3rd.
has to be Wednesday.
It doesn't have to be a Wednesday, no.
Well, I don't know why I picked Wednesday.
How many, do you got the board members you need? Did you say you were gonna?
No, we don't have
Would
any.
you, would you prefer a different day other than a Wednesday?
I don't, it
Well,
doesn't.
who's doing, I guess, first thing.
Yeah,
who's
it's
doing
up
it
to you
and then-
guys when you're available.
I'm like Keith, it's probably been a year since I did it.
I mean, I did it with Jay, so it's been at least a year. I mean, if I'm up, I
So,
can,
okay, so what works in
Well,
you,
when
in
they
that
have you-
beginning of February, what works for you guys?
whatever day that, I mean, Dave is more busier than,
I'm not traveling, so does the 3rd work for you?
sure.
All right.
You're not going back to Phoenix?
Quit saying that. I don't wanna go back.
At like
So that'll be
3:30
right
when the
after
teachers
school.
can make it?
Yeah, I can make that.
So,
Or do you want?
Keith is tougher on
what
that.
time would work for you?
I'll just get out of work.
Otherwise, we can
3
push it to
o'clock?
4, that's fine.
No, I don't wanna make it. 3 o'clock is
It doesn't hurt for them to wait. Okay, 3:30 on the 3rd,
3:30, February 3rd.
okay?
I don't mind leaving work.
Then that concludes the meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion. I second Sue.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried at 11:30 PM.
They can put in for